Hello children, everyone. In this class, we'll try to understand the chapter 12 of class 8 CBSE, that is friction. We'll try to understand the chapter friction. So, you know very well that friction is also one of the type of force, right children? Friction is also a type of force. Here, the friction is like a kind of opposing force, but not always. Sometimes see how we can define the friction. Force of friction is a force which opposes the relative motion. Try to correct it. It will opposes the relative motion of an object over the another surface. When one object is there, this object is trying to move on another object. With respect to this object, how much it will move, that is what we call as a relative motion. Okay, with respect to one object, another is how much it is moving, that is what we call relative motion. And this is a kind of contact force. You know that we can divide the force into the two types. One is contact force and non-contact force, and here gravitational force, magnetic force we can learn in the later sections. Your contact force example is the friction force. Friction force is an example of contact force, and like tension in the string, all this kind of the contact forces. Here we are going to understand the only type of contact force, that is friction force. Okay, the friction force is the contact force, and it is a force which opposes the relative motion between the objects when they are moving in contact with each other. Okay, in that condition, the friction will arises, and the force of friction acts between the object and the surfaces. Suppose here you can observe the grass is there down and the ball. The surface of grass and surface of the ground, they will be act. That's why ball is coming to stop after you throw, or else the ball will be keep on moving if there is no friction, right children? So friction means you understood now. Because of friction, it is a kind of opposing force to the ball. Here the ball is rolling and coming in this direction, the friction will act in the opposite direction of applied force. We apply the force so that the ball is moving. Here friction opposes the way. Friction we represent using small f, applied force we represent using capital F. So friction force opposes the applied force. So if applied force is more than friction, then ball will move. If applied force equal to frictional force, that ball will going to stop. So let us see some example here. The ball rolling on a ground gradually slows down and comes to rest. That is due to because of the friction between the ball and the ground. And if we stop pedaling the bicycle, it gradually slow down. I think you have experience of this, right? If you keep on pedaling, then only cycle will move. If there is not provided any slope surface, then don't think if it is a slope surface, then if you're not pedaling, also it will come down. But provided in a horizontal surface, if you're not pedaling, it won't move forward because the continuous force is required, that applied force. If applied force is not there, friction will make stop this one. Okay, so that if applied force is more than friction, then you can able to easily move on the under surface. That means what you understand, friction is a kind of force which will try to opposes the relative motion between the two bodies when they are moving in contact with each other. See, here a pushing force, we are pushing the block in this direction, and the friction is acting in the opposite direction. So if it is more than, see, you can observe the length here, applied force is more compared to friction, so that block is moving in this direction. Suppose this applied pushing force and applied force are both are same. Let us imagine this is also 2 Newton, friction also 2 Newton. That time body does not move. It will be at a rest position. I hope this slide is clear to everyone. Okay. So far we understand what is a friction, what is a friction, and now try to understand what friction causes. What is the cause of this friction? You know, no? Suppose you are eating something, the cause is you are feeling hungry. So like that, what is the cause of this friction is, this friction arises because then there is irregularities between the two surfaces. We can observe by naked eyes what we can see in this smooth table duster. Let us take, imagine this duster, this layer down layer of duster and also top layer of table, both are smooth, what you can see through naked eye. But you can see the same this much area, what is the contact, no, this is the contact surface that you can zoom and see through the microscope. What you will get, okay, you can see that two surfaces are almost irregularities. This is what we call as irregularity. Because of that irregularities, when you're going to press, what happens, they're going to interlock. How the key and lock will going to interlock, no, like that they're going to interlock. Because the interlocking will be very strong, so it need to overcome out of that interlocking. Suppose imagine one well is there. In that well, something is stuck inside the well. So what happened? You need to apply more force to overcome from this well. Okay, right? This is what friction will arises. To overcome this, we need to apply more amount of force. That opposing force to overcome, no, that is what we call as a friction. Clear, children, how the friction causes? Because of interlocking of irregularities between the two surfaces when they are in contact. That is what a friction arises. Okay, and the smooth surfaces have minute irregularities. If you think the smooth surface, then you have very minute irregularities between the two surfaces. And you can take rough surfaces like a salt paper you can take, or any road you can take. The surface is very rough. In that condition, you can able to see large number of irregularities. If irregularities are large or more deeper like this, that time friction need to overcome this more deeper well, it is more we need to apply more force, right? Children, you have experience. You need to overcome very smaller well, and you need to overcome with very deeper wells. That time you applied forces more you need to require. Suppose imagine the surface is only this much deep, you can easily overcome from out of this. Suppose the surface is almost this much of deep, so what you need to apply? You need to apply more force to overcome this more so much of well. So that is what irregularities here we call. So irregularities are more. So irregularities are directly proportional friction. Okay, friction is increases because if irregularities are going to increase. I hope this slide is clear to everyone, right, children? So cause of friction is, according to CBSE point of view, please remember this word, irregularities, interlocking of irregularities as the cause of friction. Cause of friction is interlocking of irregularities. Yes, I hope this is clear. We'll see next what are the factors affecting on this. Okay, now let us see factors affecting friction. What are the factors? That means on what factors? Directly proportional, indirectly proportional, we tell, you know. So let us take mass is directly proportional inertia. We can easily tell. So like that, on what factors does the friction will depend? We'll try to understand. See, to doing that in your NCERT book, they given one activity. They taken one inclined plane. Okay, this is the plane is somewhat slope is plane we call inclined plane. Suppose you release any cylinder, like you have a cell in your rooms, no, like positive and negative terminal cell. Let it like that cylindrical object just you're going to drop. What happen? It will come down here and it will go like this. Imagine if there is no anything, it's a very smooth surface, it will go very far distance. See, our nature of the surface in contact, smoothness of the surface, how hard the surface is pressed together, unless we, okay. Let us see here first activity that if it is a, imagine it is a smooth surface, any like a plastic cover we taken, so that what happen? It will go up to larger distance it going to cover. So what means what? If the surface is smooth, irregularities are less, so object will cover longer distance. See, in the second condition, we taken some salt paper. Imagine like a salt paper or some carpet, we taken rough carpet. So what happened? It will come with the same force, but here to here distance covered is less. You observe here, distance covered is twice of this. That means if a rough irregular surface is having irregularities, more irregularities, so friction is more. If surface is smooth, then friction is less. That means it will depend upon nature of the surface in contact. Which surface the object is in contact, based on that the friction will depend. Or you can take one steel box, okay, and you can take one plastic box, okay, steel box and plastic box you can take. Okay, almost the surface of steel box is smooth and plastic box is also same area and smooth. So both you just slide on the table, what will happen? The steel box will reaches a longer distance, plastic box reaches very little distance. That means the steel have inbuilt have the smoothness, right? Steel have very smooth compared to the plastic, so that it will cover longer distance. That means which nature, okay, whether it is steel or plastic, no, depend. That's why we call it will depend upon nature of the material, right, children? And what factor that the friction depend? It will be depend upon nature of the materials which are in contact. Next, yeah, to explain this, I just want next slide, I think. So I hope this is clear. And what factors friction depend? One is nature of the material, whether it is which kind of material, whether steel, plastic, or something else. Yeah. See, and the second factor we do, one is the nature nature of the material what we taken and nature of the material the object is in contact, and second one is it will be depend how pressed or how harder we press the body. Suppose you can imagine like the surface is there and one down surface is almost like this. If you press this body more, okay, when you're going to press this body what will happen, the interlockings will be locked more inside. So how it will, when you're going to press it downwards what happen, the interlockings will come more deeper inside, interlockings will be more deeper come. That time to overcome this interlockings from the more deep, we need to apply more amount of force. That means what we call friction will be more when they're going to press more deeper inside. Or else imagine you will take this a small box of 10 kg you see, and you can take here only 5 kgs. You can observe now on the both surfaces contact surface is same, but even though if mass is more here, okay, if it is a more mass definitely downward force whatever acting on this, that is what weight of this body, it will be more. When weight is more, so much the pressed contact surface is more. That's why if you need to replace this bigger box we need to apply more amount of force compared to the small amount of force. Here interlockings will be less because of small mass, irregularities will be locked very less, but here of press more, no, so that lockings will be more, so more inside that pressed inside more, so that to overcome that deeper wells we need to apply more amount of force. So that is why if normal reaction what we call, no, normal force is more, then friction will be more. If normal force, that is what we call weight, normal force is balanced by what, children? Weight of the body. Let us take block is on the table, normal force which will be act upwards to the contact surface, and weight equals to mg that will act down. This both are will be contact and balanced each other. When those two are balanced then only body is at rest. When they are at rest, no, when normal reaction is more, so then time friction will be more. So friction we can write it as coefficient of static friction into normal reaction, or we can write it as mu into m into g. M into G why I wrote, because this nothing but mg is nothing but weight, that is nothing balanced by normal reaction. So that time, that many times the friction will depend. Friction depend upon mass, gravity and coefficient of friction. Okay, to understand this better let us take some example. Let us take a body of mass of 10 kg. Okay, body of mass 10 kg we kept on the table. Okay, imagine we kept on the table somewhere. So what is the gravity on the earth? You know, gravity on the earth is 10 meters per second square. Let us take for calculation instead of 9.8. Now you know the normal reaction will be acting upward direction. So how to find a friction? Now friction is equals to, let us take coefficient of friction, mu is equals to 0.6. Now you can find the frictional force acting on the body is mu is how much is given as 0.6 into mass is body is 10 kgs into gravity is 10. So you can calculate now, we can write it as 6 by 10, 0.6 as into 10 into 10. So cancel 10, 10, you will get 60 newtons. So this is what the frictional force acting on the body. That means we need to replace this 10 kg mass, we need to apply. Clear, children? We need to replace this 10 kg block from this position to some other position here. We need to apply more than 60 newtons of force. Okay, applied force is more than 60 newtons, then body will just start moving. Clear? So we will understand this when body starts moving, which type of friction it is and which are the different types of friction, everything we'll discuss in later slides. Now try to understand friction will be depends on how much press you harder. Okay, friction is more if the surfaces are pressed harder. If you're going to press harder means if you increase the mass, if you put one block less, if you put 220 blocks on the upon that, so more friction will act. Okay, that's why you can easily pull the mat if nobody is sitting on it. You put on the mat 10 kgs of force, that time is very difficult. That means friction is more pressed when you put the more amount of blocks on the mat. Okay, children, I hope this is clear. And what factors does the friction depend? Friction will be depending on, first factor is nature of the surface are in contact, and second it depends upon how pressed, how harder you're going to press the two surfaces. That means normal reaction it will be dependent. Okay. So far we understood what are the cause of the friction, interlocking of irregularities, and the second one, factors. And what factors will depend? One is nature of the surfaces in contact, and the second factor is how much you're going to press the two surfaces harder. So these are the factors and the causes, and also we understand definition so far. Now do try to understand what are the different types of friction. Okay, different types of friction we'll try to understand now. Here, first type of the friction. See, you have experienced it. Suppose some wall is there. Okay, this a rigid wall is there. You will try to apply force on this rigid wall. The wall does not move, right, children? That means where you applied force, where it is gone, just it is balancing this body. Or suppose imagine the person who applying the force here. Okay, some block is there of 32 kgs. This person is applying some force on this block, but even the block is not moving. Imagine now block is not moving. Where this apply, this person even applying so much of force. Now where this force will gone? That means how it is utilized. That is utilized. That is what we call self-adjusting. It will just adjusting itself. That is what we call self-adjusting force. Is a static force. When object, even though we applied the force, body is not moving. That time it is called as a static friction. Okay, static friction exert on an object at rest. When object is in rest position, no, it is not applied force is there, but block is not moving. That time what we call it is a static friction. Okay, static friction. Let us try to grab a graph to understand this better. Even though we are applying force, body is not moving. That is what we call static. It is called just static. At a point will come, at the point, that point the body just starts moving. Okay, at the point where you apply increase, try to increase more and more friction, that time just body start to move. That is what called as maximum static friction. F maximum static friction. Again, once body starts moving, again it will be move on the smooth. That is what we call sliding friction. Sliding friction, once body just starts moving, no, that is all point we call sliding friction. Here highest friction is at a maximum static friction is the highest friction. Once body starts moving, again it will be easy. So how it is? Let us take one bus. Okay, or some car. Okay, some car is parked, is not starting. Imagine. So what you need to do? You need to apply more amount of force. That means one or two persons are required. Definitely the two persons are required to push this car. Once it starts moving, then one person is enough. Once it starts moving, one person is enough to push this car. That means here sliding friction is less compared to the static friction. The body come to start move, up to that more persons are required to pull this car. Once it starts moving, that time only one person is enough to push that one. Or else you have table or sofas in your home, try to push until you push. Your 3 to 4 friends are required to push the table. Once it starts moving, one person is enough to push. So how it is? Let us see. Okay, let us imagine initially the irregularities are like this, and a block. Let us take car tires. They almost fixed. Okay, I'll take other color. The car tire, imagine they almost locked inside like this. Okay, they're almost locked like this. once you start once you start applying a force, what happen? Apply more and more force, this interlocking try to break up to this point. They need to break, and after, how it will be? Like this. Almost, this is very very small interlockings now, and the down surface is almost filled. Okay, down surface is almost filled with the above interlocking. Breaking of this interlockings, no, that will be deposited on the down. So now two surfaces, once it starts moving, no, two surfaces act like a smooth. Now they're easily just slide to move. Or when it is moving, no, they will get very less time. Okay, when it starts moving, no, they will get very less time to interlock or go inside more. When it is at rest, they'll get more time to interlock. But when it starts moving, they'll get very less time to interlock, so that this friction, sliding friction, will be less compared to the static friction. Clear, children? This type of question they'll ask. Sliding friction means when body starts moving, that time the sliding friction will act. This friction is also called as a kinetic. Kinetic means motion. Static means rest. Kinetic means motion. When body is in motion, even the friction opposes, no, that is what we call static and kinetic frictions. Clear, children? What is static friction? With friction exerted by the object when body is at rest position, when applied force is there, body is just starts moving. That time the friction arises, that is what we call sliding friction. When body slides over the another surface. And and rolling friction is very advantageous also. Why? See, observe here. If you need to slide, it will, suppose it is in a box type, it will take more time to come down. But if you put like in the circular form, this is what we call as a rolling. one surface is easily roll on other surface, that time it's very easily come down. That is why in case of automobiles, what you can see, cars, buses, all that thing, you can see the circular tires are going to use. Instead, the bus pulling a bus is very difficult. Once you provided this bus with the wheels, it's very easy. That's what we experience. The pulling some cart is very difficult. Suppose same cart, you just include one, two wheels. That's it, the cart will go easily. Okay, so rolling friction will be the very less friction compared to starting and sliding. Suppose you want to ride which in the increasing order, static friction is very high compared to sliding, and again rolling is very less, rolling friction will be. I hope this is clear, children. Types of the friction: static friction, sliding friction, and rolling friction. Okay, this is static is slightly greater than sliding, and sliding is still greater than rolling friction. This is about the in case of solids. Okay, in case of liquid, we call fluid friction, that we're going to discuss it next slide. I hope up to here it is clear. See, first one is static when body is at rest. Second figure, you can see the boy is just sliding downward. This is what a sliding friction, just sliding downwards. When it is he was in motion, no, even though some friction is acting him upward, he will try to come down, but the friction make him to go up. Okay, if this weight is more than is friction, no, that is why he can able to come down here. And here the third condition, the cylinder is rolling down on the inclined surface. This is example of rolling friction. Clear, children? I hope up to here. Yeah. So far we understood what are the factors, causes, effects, and types of the friction. Now in this slide we'll try to understand what are the useful, and sometimes how it will be advantageous and useful of friction, we'll try to understand. See, without friction, imagine our earth is also not exist. Are you believe, children? Earth or whatever the planets is, all the planets are arising, are there existing because of the friction only. That means friction is nothing but electromagnetic force between the two particles. When the particles, all the matter is made up of bound of two particles, some particles. If particles are bound each other because of only friction, okay, because of the friction only particles are bind together. If there is no friction, the particle won't bind and they'll keep on moving like this. When keep on moving, what happen? We cannot, no matter will be bound and no earth will form, no planets will, no solar system, nothing will form. So all this form because of what? Existence of friction only. So friction is such a great helpful. So imagine if there is no friction, no body will go come into stop, right, children? If there is no fluid friction, or if there is no any friction on the surface, if the ball is in ground floor, it is just keep on moving only. If nobody will stop, no, it will keep on moving like that. So imagine in the world, if something is not stopped by the friction, others between the floor and the other thing, if they are keep on moving, they won't stop. So they will stop because of friction. That is what advantages of friction. And we want to hold anything, okay, anything we want to hold with our hand, so have our contact with our hand and that object, there exists a friction, or else we cannot hold the things. Okay, the static friction is there so that we can able to hold the things, or else we cannot able to hold. Imagine if we hold, just see in the first figure, he hold the glass, so he can able to hold. Suppose imagine this glass surface is just coated with little amount of oil. That time, no, it just slip down and it will fall and it will break, right? So friction is such a helpful that to hold, it will give us a grip to hold. That is why in case of your bikes and all, to pedal, what is a pedal they will use? What is the pedaling, or to accelerate some more, you can use the two sides of the bike. To accelerate, this kind of plastic things will use instead of metal thing. So that will give you the grip. That means to increase the friction, we're going to use that one to get the grip. And why we need to walk? So see here, we need to walk. What our legs will be? Our leg will be show in this direction almost with the angle of 45 degree. We'll press the ground downward direction. Okay, when we press the ground in this direction, the vertical component, the horizontal component of the friction help us to move forward. Clear, children? The horizontal component of friction will help us to move forward. When we applied force in direction, frictional force in direction, but horizontal component of friction will be in the forward direction. Okay, I think you know vertical and horizontal component. Any friction will be like this, friction resultant force is like this. but it is horizontal and it is vertical component. Vertical component will be balanced by the weight of u, mg. Weight of the body will balance by vertical component of friction. But this horizontal component of friction, that will be helps us to move forward. Okay, that means friction indirectly helping us to walk. If friction is not there, okay, this horizontal component of friction is imagined not there, we cannot able to walk forward. That is why in case of surfaces which is very slippery, like in banana peel and all, you put our leg, we won't get that kind of grip. That means very less friction. That time we'll just slip down and fell down. No, in case of watery surfaces and all, or in case of surface of ice and all, we cannot get that grip because the friction, vertical component of friction is absent there. Next one, friction between the feet and ground. Okay, so anything, so all we are learning how I'm just writing on this tab, are you going to write on the chalk on the board, whatever, or you can use your ink pen to write on the paper, whatever we are doing, that is all because of friction only. If friction is our no education system, right children? So how it is, because anything we try to explain, definitely we'll use a board like this to write on the board. What is, suppose imagine initially you taken chalk piece of this much length, after period get over, what is the length of chalk piece? Very small. That means where this much portion gone, that means this much portion is going, because it is stick to the interlockings of the irregular. The board surface is almost interlocking. The chalk powder go deposited on this interlockings. I'll just draw with another color. So you just taken this chalk powder is, you know, that will come and deposited is interlocking. The deposition only what we can see, you know, here like a minus b whole square he wrote. That is what interlocking. In case of the board have interlocking, in that interlocking the chalk powder get deposited. Okay, that deposition what we can see like a white color on the board. I hope this is clear children. And we need to write, and the see rolling friction is helpful. The wheel is trying to go forward, there is translatory motion, but wheel is trying to pull backward, that only it will going to rotate and go forward. That means pulling backward who, friction. Okay, here friction is helpful to roll the wheel. Wheels are rolling because of that rolling friction. And here see construction of the buildings. Okay, the bricks are hold, how we going to consider, we need to tie here, no, that tying means the friction is there, then only we can able to tie and we can able to grip. Okay, so all these are the advantages of the friction. I hope this is clear children. Advantages of the friction. Now let's try to understand disadvantages of the friction. Yeah, coming to the disadvantages of the friction, even though it have a lot of advantages, same time it will have a lot of disadvantages also. You can observe the old shoes and the new shoes. The old one and the new one. New one has a different good patterns like this and all, whatever the shapes are given, that like that pattern. You can observe the old shoe, there is no pattern. It is almost like a straight line. The whatever the patterns given initially, all they are gone. They are almost, you can see the hole that is made. The so much a portion is disappears, right? This much a portion is almost destroyed. That is because soles of the shoes will going to wear and tear effect. So I told in case of interlocking, otherwise suppose we are keep on walking, the soles, whatever the plastic that they come and deposit it on the road surfaces. So this much portion is lost. That means that will going to break. It is continuously breaking. What will happen? We can see our last portion. That is what we call wear and tear effect on the shoes, soles of the shoes, old tires and the new tires. So all this is because of, you can see the some paint thing, all things will gone. That is because of wear and tear effect. And the tires of the bicycle, automobiles, wear and tear effect. And the steps of the staircases, you can see that is also railway stations wear due to the friction. And knives, edges and roses loses their sharpness because of friction. Okay, new blades, you can see how the sharply working. After some days, what happened? Work keep on working. The sharpness will going to last because of the friction. So all this is what advantages, disadvantages of the friction. Still more disadvantages is there. That is when you going to heat, it will produces lot of heat, and because of friction we can open and the shoe close the doors. It will keep on producing the sound. Okay, the heat will also produce. So you can touch the machineries. After working mixie only, just touch, so much sound will come and so much of heat is also produced. That is all energy going to waste in the form of heat because of the friction. Okay, wear and tear, and the efficiency, what we call as like efficiency of the engines. After long days of working, efficiency decreases. That is why, suppose imagine your bikes, new bikes will give 60 kilometers per hour mileage, but the old bike they will give only 32 kilometers per hour per mileage, like that and all. So that means efficiency of that your engine is going to decrease because of the friction. Clear, children? That is why, so we can overcome this all the disadvantages. We're going to reduce the friction by some of the methods. Okay, let us see what are the methods to uh, reduce this kind of friction. Okay, you can see if you can able to increase the friction when somewhere is required. To how to increase the friction? Friction will be increased by making the surfaces smooth. Okay, we can make the surfaces smooth so that we can able to increase the friction. Here, see, for running shoes who are used for walking and running practicing, they can see the sharp edge like this will be their shoes of the down grooves, where they provided like this kind of grooves to get the good amount of friction. And you can see here the tires also, they given good amount of patterns. This all patterns will getting the more amount of grip. So that is why old tires means you can easily slip. So if you put a brake, suddenly they're going to stop. New tires are there. Suppose the same old tires are there, we cannot be able to stop the bikes. Okay, that is because the friction decreases. So that's why to increase the friction, they can give the grooves for the sports shoes and all, and they need to give the different patterns for the tires. Okay, and the soles of the shoes grooves, okay, better grip, and the tires of the vehicles, okay, and the brake pads. But if this is a brake pads, you can see the brake pads, okay, they are given the brake pads that is to increase the friction. They're going to use the ball bearings here. Inside this ball bearings they're going to use, that is also to better increase of friction. Moving parts of vehicles, their brakes are applied, and gymnastics they can cause substances to hands, better grip. Okay, they use gloves to the hands. No, that gloves gives a proper grip. If they directly they touch, they won't get proper grip. They'll use that proper grip. What they will use, they will use plastic gloves. Okay, that and all increases the friction. Or how to increase other ways of friction means, suppose some watery surface is there, and that you just put the some mud, so what happen, it will just increases the friction. Okay, or some surface is very very smooth, what you can think in case of hospitals and in case of malls and all, you can see the red kind of carpet they wear, that will increases the friction, the red kind of carpets. Or you can see in case of the bathrooms and all, they put a tiles, have some different patterns tiles instead of smooth tiles, like in home they will put in bathroom different kind of tiles, that the tiles will have different shapes, so the irregularities gives you grip. So like this we're going to increase the friction. I hope this is clear, children. Okay, and the next one, to reduce the friction. Okay, how you going to reduce the friction? By, instead of making the sliding, we're going to use the rolling. Clear, children? Instead of sliding, we're going to use rolling. So you see, we can easily pull when we provided with the proper wheels. So rolling friction, and in case of this wheels and all, you can use a ball bearing. This kind of ball bearings, you can see small balls inside. Instead of sliding the surface, the rolling will be there. The rolling kind of thing we can usually reduce the friction. And in case of callum board, you put the powder. Upon the powder, it easily slide. When the surfaces are filled with, so irregularities are filled with the powder, no? Now see, it is act like a smooth surface so that your can easily slide on the surface. So like this way, we're going to reduce the friction. And how can we reduce the friction even though by using lubricants? Lubricants like oil and the grease. Suppose in case of old cycles, you just keep on applying the grease and oil, it will easily run. Or else in the hinges of the doors and all. Okay, in hinges of the door, you put some oil. It will create one more layer there. Okay, between the two surfaces, they will create one more layer. That time it will be more easy for you to clear children, how to read. And using the rollers or the wheelers and using the ball bearings, we can able to reduce the friction. Okay, this is about how to reduce the friction and how to increase the friction. Be clear, I think.